Yo, 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 what's good, YouTube? What's good? It's STORMYBMAN, and I am back welcoming you to the post-fight show with STORMYBMAN and Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens. I was just trying to give my man Reggie a chance to come in. I know he was trying to catch some of that UFC, but we are here and we are ready to get going. This is the post-fight show for the NAVARETTE versus DIAZ main fight card that was on ESPN. So with no further ado, we're going to get right down into it. What's going on, Reggie, with you, Reggie? How you doing, bro?
Doing good, OG. Doing good. Doing even better now that Usman got that major knockout. Doing real good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's funny, man, that this has been it's been a really like active night for boxing. It's like we've seen some pretty good scrape ups, we've seen some knockouts, and we've seen some battles. It's a fulfilling thing. And guess what? It was only one station, Reggie, ESPN. So it was ESPN and ESPN Plus, but you know, we'll take it, right? With no overlapping cards and whatnot. We can deal with that, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the great thing about it. It's like we didn't have to worry about other networks getting in the way of things, and so such as it is, you know, it's like, hey, let's do this. You know what I mean? So, man, I feel pretty good. I got a chance to catch a lot of the undercards, the pre-fight shows that were on ESPN Plus, and then switching up with the major network ESPN for the main cards. I was pleased, you know, and listening to the fight calls. I listened to both fight calls. I had both you and brother KC going from the earlier matches, and it was like, you know what, I could really get with this if the networks would follow suit and learn that they can have our attention all day long if they just space these fight cards out and not, you know, overlap them with other networks and everything, trying to so-called steal someone's audience or make someone feel like one fight is more important than the other. Because at the end of the day, we as boxing fans, we're going to watch the fights, even if we have to catch them on a replay or something. But we prefer to see them live, and we prefer to see them, you know, uninterrupted. So I think they really need to pay more attention to that, and we should continue to voice and sound that off with them so that they do catch on to it. So, you know, that's just my personal thought and feeling. What are your thoughts as far as that?
Absolutely. I can't stand when these dudes interfere with promotions going head to head. I can't stand it. And now you're starting to see to where these fighters are starting to try to interfere with pay-per-view events. They need to stop that. Allow promotions to have their own fights, so fighters get exposure. Cut this type of level of competition down. Separate the dates. And I enjoy this. I really enjoy it. We don't have to scramble around for fight events, except the UFC had an event on this night, but boxing still had a great night.
Yeah. And, you know, it could be like a college football Saturday or a Sunday football day, you know, where you give us fights all throughout the day. Shoot, start them at like 11, 12, you know, p.m. and run them on into the night. We'll watch them. You know what I mean? Why put one event on at 8:30 and then another one is starting at 9:30 or at, you know, 7:30? Come on, man. They need to really get off with that. But enough on that. Let's get on down into it, man. We can start with the main event, because the main event was a fight, Reggie, that turned out to be a little bit better than we may have thought going in, because we understand that Emmanuel Navarrete is really a piece of work at that what is it, super featherweight division there, and what he does. And it's like, man, you know, the guy is a real champion, and you can't take none. He's unorthodox, but he's a formidable cat, man. So, and also saluting our brother Taylor Bell out there in that super chat. He's saying cheers to another great show, and cheers to more great support from a person like Taylor Bell, who's always out there. He's like our hype man for the STORMYBMAN channel and for our shows. So let's get it. You know what I'm saying? Thank you, Taylor Bell, for leading the way, bro. But Reggie, go ahead and give us your thoughts on this main event, because I know that's what people want to hear you talk about as we kick the show off. And great call, by the way.
First of all, I got to salute both fighters. I salute Christopher Diaz and as well as Navarrete. I was going for Christopher Diaz because I wanted to see Navarrete knocked off because of how I felt the fighter that Navarrete fought last time was robbed, and I thought that was a top-ranked hookup. But in this one, both fighters showed tremendous heart. Diaz fought a great fight. Navarrete with this awkward style, being able to land these punches from anywhere, any which way, especially with these long arms, these uppercuts that come from some of the weirdest angles, these right hooks that catch you at weird angles, and he knows how to, I don't know how he's able to land these shots. I don't know how the heck he's able to twist to get a knuckle square on a person and deliver these shots the way that he's delivering. But Diaz came in here and fought a great fight when he pressured Navarrete. He was putting a lot of good pressure on Navarrete, backing him up, walking forward, catching Navarrete with good shots, and he started working to the body. And I thought Navarrete started to show signs of wear. I really believe I thought to start seeing signs of wear on Navarrete. And I don't know what happened. Probably when that first knockdown occurred, that Diaz started to kind of fight from the outside and allow Navarrete to get the distance he needs to turn on these punches and begin to land some of these significant punches. And I was like, why, man? Why you give up what you had going for you? But ultimately, this is just a great fight. I didn't like the referee interfering, warning about punches that are normal inside a clinch, people punching each other on the back or on the side, that he stopped the action to take a point at that moment, which was crap to me. And I think following that, even inside this round, is where I believe that first knockdown was scored. I thought that was crappy. I thought that was real crappy with seeing that referee do that. But still going forward, Diaz still pressed forward in that round. No, the knockout didn't happen but Diaz still pressed forward in that round, and not even that round up. But going forward, Navarrete just able to get these few punches in that landed flush, impacting Diaz and sending Diaz to the ground. And even in that final round, seeing Diaz go again, starting out great in that 12th round, putting the pressure on Navarrete. Thought he had Navarrete hurt, was going after it, and all Navarrete needed was one solid punch to land and end up ultimately getting the corner to stop the fight. But that was a good battle right there. And I thought Diaz may have gotten close to try to get that belt from him, but Navarrete is just a tough hombre, man.
He sure is. I want to take a moment out to acknowledge a Cash App donation from the brother Sheldon Holmes. He says, always will love boxing, but UFC killing them right now. And salute to brother Curtis Anderson, a.k.a. Kurt Sugar, out there in the Cash App as well. Curtis is supporting the channel through the Cash App. Appreciate you, Kurt. And I know you've enjoyed your evening of boxing, but if you want to come on and talk about these fights for this evening, you're more than welcome. And, you know, if you choose to stay in the chat and relax yourself, that's cool as well. Yeah, Reggie, when I felt there was going to be trouble was that the ref intervening, talking to Diaz, telling him about hitting Navarrete in the back when Navarrete was turning his side to that way. And we see fighters in close all the time when they're in that near clinch and a guy will hit a guy on his flank, on his side and stuff like that. But Navarrete would spread his arms out and turn his back that way. I would have told Diaz, being a cornerman, I would have told him, okay, since they want to play that game, slip over to your left, which is Navarette's right, and throw left hook, right hand. Okay? Or throw right hand, left hook. But slip over to that side because he's got his arms extended out and he's waiting for the ref to come and pull you apart or to say something to you about hitting him there. So get in there and do what they're not expecting you to do, and he'll stop doing that. He'll stop turning his back like that, and he'll stop, and the ref won't be in a position to intervene because it's obvious that the ref was really on most of the cards tonight for the top ranked fighter. It's like you could see it clearly. These things were, and when you notice those type of things, see, that's the thing about the theater of the unexpected, which boxing is. You know, Larry Merchant used to say that a lot on HBO. The thing about it is you have to do the unexpected when they're doing these things that you recognize. It's going to be a problem. And I feel like sometimes it's going to be difficult for me to say this because people may take it the wrong way, but I do understand what I'm talking about when I say this. The cornermen have a job to do, Reggie. And it's like they have to protect their fighter. They have to operate at the optimum of their fighter's interests. That doesn't just mean throwing towels in. You know, that doesn't mean just stopping the fight when the fighter's on his stool, or, you know, the cornerman can't be a distraction to the event, but he can kind of steer his fighter in a certain direction to be successful from the vantage point of which they work. And Diaz needed a little bit more of that before it got late in the fight. We understand that, you know, late in the fight he got dropped a couple more times, and that made the situation, you know, more difficult for him. But kudos to him for winning the last 2 rounds, you know, where he was winning until he, you know, got stopped. But it's like he put that effort forward. And that's what you like to see as well. You have to give the man a lot of credit for that. And Navarrete, for a guy who doesn't use his reach advantage, who doesn't use, you know, boxing from the outside and his height and all of that, he's just an awkward guy, and he throws punches from unorthodox angles, but he does have loopholes and openings, and Diaz exploited some of that this evening. I just don't know that he had a strong enough punch to make the difference in the fight, but he did do some things that I felt was like really good, you know. And you know, but I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just trying to be analytical of, you know, what I was witnessing. But the corners do have to earn a little more. That ref was BS, man. He, you know, when he had the opportunity, he took that point away from these guys in a fight that was being highly contested. It may not have been as close because of knockdowns, but you still had to respect the efforts that Diaz was trying to put out there. And when refs get involved and start taking points away from guys from things that are not blatant or things that are not always initial, where someone's doing it purposefully, this was not that kind of thing. The rule says protect yourself at all times, and Navarrete was dependent on the ref to help him in those situations. And those are the times when you see a fighter looking to the ref, you have to turn that pressure up on him even more, because the ref is not there to be his friend and help him, although this ref was. But the body work by Diaz was definitely putting Navarrete, you know, at a point of he wasn't liking it. I mean, nobody likes getting punched in the body, but I'm saying he was actually showing it. You know, his physical shape was showing you like, oh, he didn't like that shot. Oh, that shot made him feel, uncomfortable, this and that. And so a more concerted effort to the body could have weakened him up, you know, for the later rounds as well. But, you know, that's kind of my take on what I was observing early in the fight. What do you think and feel about, you know, those those no body shots that were called, illegal punches and things like that, Reggie.
That you talk that ref when he's talking about the way he took the points for.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
That was suspect as heck, because it's the most common thing I see in boxing when fighters are in that moment of being on the inside clinching. They hit each other towards the side of the body and to the back, and it's not like the guy was punching that hard to what's his name, to Navarrete. He wasn't hitting Navarrete hard, and when the referee did that, it caused Navarrete to try to use the ref to find a way to stopping this guy from doing whatever Navarrete was uncomfortable. He tried to fake like the guy low blowed him with a punch. He was trying to use the ref because he thought he had the ref, and the ref had to realize that at one moment, like, dang, now this fighter's starting to kind of beg for me to stop uncomfortable things, kind of doing what AJ did against Takam and what he did against Parker in fights, using the ref to stop certain things he didn't like. And that ref had to kind of pull himself away from the fight. Yeah, you should have kept yourself about that fight. But that was the only moment that really jacked me up, seeing that ref do that. And seeing some bad calls from a few of these refs. But after that, he kind of got himself about the fight. He kind of separated himself, removed himself from the fight, and let the fighters go at it.
Another thing, hindsight, looking back on it upon reflection, is early on, Diaz was doing some nice feinting and shooting shots off of those feints. And he had some nice movement where he was slipping shots and coming out on the opposite side and stuff like that. Possibly a little bit more of that could have kept him, a lot safer. But that uppercut that Navarrete dropped him with, he chased him down because he was on the move, and he punched him very cleanly while his feet were together. It was like he took that full shot and it went down. Kudos to Diaz for getting up from that, because remember, he got up as the count was going, then he took a knee again because he was rattled by that shot. And the man came back and he fought his heart out, man. This is the type of thing that we talk about a lot as well, when you have fighters who put forth such an effort like Diaz did, and he was fighting from certain disadvantages. Anytime you're fighting with the ref too, it's like, come on. But that awkwardness of Navarrete, it really gave him some problems, but he gave his best effort, and I take my hat off to him for putting out the effort that he did, because there are a lot of guys who may have just succumbed under the pressure of that, and he didn't do that. He actually tried to carry himself through, and I saw his team was motivating him as well, trying to get him up for that. But my hat is off to Diaz for his solid effort this evening. Very much. I want to take a quick moment and acknowledge another super chat we got out there. We've got the brother 88 Sports Talk out there in that super chat, and he's saying Navarrete versus Gary Russell needs to be next. I don't disagree, man. It's like we want to see Gary Russell in there with somebody. It's been well over a year since Gary has been back in there, and the way he has performed in his last couple of fights, people are wondering what's going on with Gary. It's like we want to see him in there with somebody. At this juncture, it's been just a lot of at this juncture, it's been nothing really. But late last year, it was a lot of jawing going back and forth. But maybe he's gonna just fade into oblivion, as Mike Tyson said, oblivion or whatever how Tyson said it. But yeah, are those your final thoughts on Navarrete and Diaz, Reggie, or you have something else on it as well?
No, I think that was it, man. It was just a matter of I think with the reach of Navarrete and him just having a few of these lapses in it. But there were some things, if he could have maintained, I think this is where kind of cardio come into an issue, especially being a fighter with that such a disadvantage to where he had to stay more active. And I think he got in moments where he may have, drawing itself out, trying to stay active on a fighter who's very strong, a fighter who's hard to hurt. And that's the other thing. And you having to really, really work yourself. And when you take those breathers, Navarette's on top of your head. So I think being with the huge, I think it was a pretty huge reach advantage, that being an issue, and the fact that him needing to work as much as he needed to work and fading at those moments kind of cost him. So I think it was going to be a hard fight to try to get rid of this guy, but I wish he would have boxed a little bit more or just never stayed on the outside to leave those openings. And if he could have protected himself better against the Navarrete uppercut, which is a hard uppercut to defend because it comes from some crazy places.
Yeah. And one thing that is definitely a pattern with Navarrete is he throws his punches in a lunging fashion. And my goodness, if somebody can punch and can counter as he's doing that, he can run into something and go to sleep right away. But he telegraphs his punches and he throws them from awkward angles, but he's very much lunging. And he leans over his front knee a lot. I mean, it's really interesting that from that technical aspect, people don't notice that. That's why a jab and counter jab from Diaz when he was doing the feints would have been a little bit more effective. You know, a fighter like Navarrete, eventually you're going to have to engage with him, but I think the engagement should be later, not early. And that's not because he's devastatingly strong or something like that. It's just that you have to be able to gauge the distance where the punches are coming from. And that's why you would want to stay in a safe position, stay away from the ropes, keep that fight in the center of the ring. And the reason why you're staying away from the ropes is because once he gets you near the ropes, you have a certain distance that you can't get away from his leaning, lunging shots and his reach, you know. So, but when you're in the center of the ring, you can always go left, right, or back. And you don't want to go back very often. You know, you go left or right first and do the back thing as infrequent as possible, because he being a longer reach guy, he can chase you straight back, but he can't chase you to the left or to the right. He has to move his feet. He has to pick his feet up when you go left or right. And his footwork is not that great. So that's one of those things that technically you have to train and be ready and prepared for those type of things. Now, when he gets in there with some more athletic fighters, he's gonna have trouble. Dogbay was too short, too small. That guy was very much a midget in there fighting against him, and he was just so much stronger than Dogbay. But yeah, it's a good win for Navarrete. I'm sure that his followers and fans are happy for that. And Diaz put forth quite an effort, but just didn't have enough to pull himself over the top with this. But you could see at those moments when he got aggressive how it did make a difference in the fight, because he showed himself to be, you know, a match when he did engage. So that's, you know, pretty much that when it came to that, though, you know. But yeah, great fight, man, for the main event. And it went to the 12th round. It's like, wow, you know, you probably would have thought that might have ended earlier, but he hung in there. So you have to take your hat off to him. Now, Reggie, the co-main event. Berlanga versus Nicholson. This fight right here, I know we had heard about Nicholson, and shout out to Kano Local Sports, who has said in his pre-fight breakdown and whatnot that he felt that this was definitely a fight where he could see that Nicholson could get out of that first round. And boy, was he right about that. I mean, that was something that came to pass, and we saw it. We saw that for the first time in his professional career in 16 fights. This was his 17th fight. We saw that Edgar Berlanga was taking the distance, Reggie. So let me know your thoughts on that. What you saw with that?
Man, first of all, I need to apologize to Desmond Nichols because I thought Berlanga was gonna go in here, grab him by his neck, lift him up off the ground, punch him a couple of times, and throw him over that rope. But he came in here, and this dude came to square up with Berlanga, show Berlanga that he ain't this old big monster that's just mashing and walking through these guys. This guy stood right in there against Berlanga. He even walked towards Berlanga, pressed him back, had Berlanga backing up, and he boxed on the inside well with Berlanga. Gave good movement against Berlanga, and it shows that Berlanga ain't got the greatest of footwork. And it seems like it's very hard for him to follow fighters with just a little bit of mobility. And it wasn't like Desmond had to move around a lot in this fight. He just used very subtle movements. Berlanga really couldn't find a way to hit him. Berlanga spends too much time building himself and then knocking folks out. And I think that's something that has that he has to kind of wake up from. This fight right here really taught him a lesson that trying to go out here and knock out folks isn't going to always work for you. And especially when you get drawn into deeper fights, you have a fighter, and that's the other thing. You hit a fighter who kept getting up on you. Two of those knockdowns were knockdowns. You hit a fighter with your best shot, caught him solid on the chin, and watch this guy get up. And then this guy comes back, and he begins to repeat boxing on you. Now you have to dig deeper. He's taking you deeper in the rounds. How does the cardio stand up against someone like that? Now if he goes in here against a fighter who's on a level that's above what Nicholson is, you're going to begin to see things run short for Berlanga. But I like the test that this was. I like the fact that Desmond came in here to put on a fight that he came to win. He came to railroad the party, and that's what all fighters are supposed to be. You ain't supposed to be just viewed in here as a underdog fighter, and you just come in here for a check and lay down. No, Desmond came in here really to spoil some stuff. And he boxed well. He was comfortable in there. And I think that's where he kind of got himself caught. He was feeling good about what he was doing, what he was able to do against Berlanga. Didn't respect so much of the power. Started to walk Berlanga back. He felt just as strong and ended up getting himself caught. But Berlanga, every time Berlanga did hit him with the big right hooks because he throws so much weight in his shots, it hurt Desmond. But Desmond able to get up, and it showed that he was in good cardio condition to be able to recover from being hit with some of these big shots. But if he would have covered himself up a little bit better, he probably really could have upset at this fight. This fight was very, very, very could have been very close had it not been for the 4 knockdowns that were counted in this fight. But he got some work to work on, and he stayed in the post fight. I like what I heard from Berlanga in the post fight. It's a real learning experience for him. He has to work on his endurance. He definitely has to. And he has to start getting back in the box. He needs to work on footwork as well, because he's going to get in here with fighters who can move, or Rosado will give him a tough time. I don't think Top Rank will want a Rosado, but guess what? Rosado will probably go start calling the guy out because these other veterans are going to be looking to knock this guy up off his strong. And you may even get the dude who ended up being Yuskatagi. I don't know why that guy ain't in the ring with going in the ring against David Benavidez, but he's overlooked. What's his name? Lionel, I think his name is Lionel Thompson. It won't be Yuskatagi not too long ago from thing fight with Mayweather Promotions. They may need to let see if that can be the next step up for Berlanga to see where he at. But I think Lionel probably give him a boxing lesson. But they're going to have to watch what they do with him, and the training's going to have to kind of get more intense with Berlanga as things are getting real serious. So he wants to keep the money rolling in. He's going to have to tighten up on some things. Defense needs to be one of them because he's getting hit quite a bit in here as well. He got some things to work on, but it was a good fight. That was a good battle, and salute to Nicholson for not coming in here to lay down. And finally broke the knockout win streak of this guy, which needed to happen, because if he would have continued on this knockout win streak, it would have ended badly for this dude later down the line coming in here against a better boxer, because his problems are going to be against boxers.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that. But man, where shall I start here with Mr. Edgar Berlanga, man? Let me say this. He's nothing special. He's a big guy, strong, has a strong punch, and is heavy-handed. He has no jab. He can't box a lick. He has a presence that he, because of what's been successful, that can be intimidating to some people. But once Mr. Nicholson figures some things out, that, I could get hit, I could get knocked down, I could still fight. His legs told me a different story, Reggie. And I've seen this before. His legs, he got hit on top of the head, that first knockdown. And the mere fact that he kept fighting beyond that was really good. So it could be twofold here. But that blow to the top of the head, it's like the crown of your head. You get hit there, man, it can knock your equilibrium off. And it'll be very hard to come back from that. But because he looked to be in good condition, okay, he was able to do that. But I think there was also another telltale story about Mr. Nicholson behind the scenes. I think he's fooling around with the ladies a little bit too much, because his legs weren't there, after a few rounds, because he had time to clear his head. He went the distance. He went 8 rounds. But sometimes when guys don't have that juice in their legs, they know why. And for those who don't want to live the true, and I think I wrote that in your chat about the myth, because you got guys who don't believe in it. They believe like, hey, ain't nothing wrong with, having some loving from your woman or whatever while you training and before you fight and all of that. But I'll tell you this. You never saw Marvin Hagler's legs look weak, did you? No matter the puncher that he was in there with, whether it was Antifermo, whether it was Mugabe, Tommy Hearns. Well, Tommy Hearns actually did make him stumble just a little bit in that first round when he hit him with that right hand. But Marvin was a strong fighter. And fighters who really want to do this and work their best, they have to sacrifice. They have to deny themselves the pleasures that we enjoy in everyday life. It's the one thing that can separate you from being an also-ran to being the man. And a lot of guys in this modern era, they don't believe that anymore. Oh, those trainers, that's an old wives' tale. Yeah, but it's true. I'll give you an example, and I was talking to Kurt Sugar about this earlier. You remember like when you was in high school or whatever, and you play sports, or, you see guys play sports, man. There's always a couple of them real, what they call country strong or cock strong brothers, right? They could throw the football further than anybody, knock the baseball over 500-600 feet, softballs over 500 feet. That kind of thing, right? And what do you call him? You say, man, that's a country strong dude. That's a cock strong dude. That's a dude that ain't getting no loving too. Usually at that age, remember, because you're not really introduced. Everybody ain't sexually active and stuff like that in their teens and stuff like that. And you shouldn't be anyway, but I am going down that track. But I'm just explaining the natural physicality and testosterone that's in men that aren't releasing their seed. True trainers and fighters know that this was something that if a fighter can hold back on that, you'll have more of yourself to give out in the competition, what you're competing in. And that has been with soldiers, that has been with warriors, and going even back to the Roman times and all of that. Why is it today that people think that it's, old wives' tale, or it's not true? You see guys out there and they look a little shaky and stumbly. You see guys that, it's like, man, he looked like he walking in sand. Yeah. Huh? Because he was laying up in them sheets all night long. Huh? What's the difference between waiting an extra night? You go through your camp and you have your fight. But again, This is just coming from someone who understands the way they did it old school. And even your boy, Deontay Wilder, has come out and say, oh, man, I don't believe in that or whatever. Well, his legs did look a little shaky in that second fight, huh? And he was up there in the, you know, in the, what do they call it, the dressing room and everything. Wasn't he laid up with his woman and stuff? He was like, couldn't let her go. You know, I thought he was going to carry her in the ring with him. Sometimes you have to deny yourself the good things, the pleasures. I say that. And it's very difficult because it's a discipline thing. And if you can do that when it comes to just like that one thing, you have to be able to do it with everything else, with what you're preparing yourself for, because it makes the difference in your efforts. You should want to beat that guy brains out, not literally, of course, across the ring from you, because he's made you deny yourself for 3 months of the things you love. You know what I mean? He's like, that guy is trying to take my good life away from me, so I got to go out there and put it on him. Again, a motivating factor and tool for the sport. But again, I can't say that a lot of people would receive that well, but the old guys know what I'm talking about. You got something on that?
There I go. Yeah, nah, I don't got too much on it, but I believe in that myth about need to do away with that, and that's a hard temptation. That's why you leave the women at home.
Yeah, man. You know what? And the funny thing is this, man. Nobody is trying to tell you that you can't do what you want to do. But one of the things that you will find is that it's just like when you're trying to lose weight or something. You got to lay off the cake and cookies and pies and all of that stuff that is so good to you, right? It's like, hey, if you want the positive results, then you have to work at it. You know what I mean? And that's it in a nutshell. It's about discipline. But back to the fighters. Nicholson opened up some Pandora box for Mr. Berlanga tonight. Everybody in the chat here was writing, a boxer is going to get him. Well, it won't just be boxing, you know, it won't be just that, but it'll be someone who has courage, who has ambition, who has drive and incentive, who wants something, motivated. It has to be someone who has a jab, who has some pop on his punches, because having pop on your punches, you can break a guy down over the course of a fight. If you happen to have a sniper of a punch, which is like a laser left hook or a blazing right hand, even better. But Berlanga can be hit. He can be hit cleanly. If you have movement, he don't have the footwork to keep up with that. And I think he's only conditioned to go a certain amount of rounds. Remember, this was an 8-rounder. It wasn't a full 10 or 12. And there wasn't a lot coming back at him from Nicholson to break him down like he could have been broken down. What I think was breaking him down was the mental pressure of, I got to stop this guy. You know what I mean? Because his record and all of that, it is like the focus. You could see he was concerned about that. Because after that first round, when he came out for that second round, you remember those few intense punches that he really threw at Nicholson? He was like trying to get him in the first 20 seconds of the second round. Then he settled into just fighting for the round because he realized it wasn't going to happen like that. But it's like he felt that pressure. So imagine the pressure he would feel psychologically with somebody putting it on him. Pap, 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 move, pap. Slipping, moving, making him miss shots, huh? Because he's throwing with all his might and he's tight and all of that. So it's like he's going to burn up that energy. And then you get a guy who's experienced enough how to tie him up the right way, put pressure on his neck, push him down, tie him and maul him, do those kind of things, hit him with some elbows, hit him with some low blows. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you think you tough, sucker? You just got in here tonight with somebody that's tougher. Those kind of things. They're coming. As long as he keep fighting, he'll see those nights. And then he's going to have an answer for it. And sometimes a big old punch just ain't going to get it done. And that's real talk. You know what I mean? You got hard, you got heavy hands and all that, and you've been hit before, you've been knocked down before, maybe even knocked out before. What's that going to do to you? That's going to scare you? No. Because you've been down that avenue before. But he hasn't. And as soon as somebody turns up that heat on him, I think he going to fold like a garden chair. That's just my opinion. Salute to the brother out there, Bernard Burton, in that super chat. He says, salute Stormy and Reggie and chat. Salute to you, brother, and thank you for your donation to the channel, man. Appreciate you. What do you think about what I said, Reggie? I know that may not sit well with a lot of people, but it's a harsh reality.
No, I gotta say, I agree with you. I can't discount anything on that one.
Now, there were some fights that took place on the undercard where you had the Ordonez brothers out there. Are those guys twins or they just close brothers?
I think they just brothers. They do resemble each other though.
Yeah, they do have a very close resemblance being brothers, but they both fought tonight. And they both were in some pretty good fights. You know, both brothers were in good fights. But the Ordonez-Ortiz fight was, I think, the fight of the night, Reggie. That fight right there was really an action-packed fight. Both fighters were 14-0, I believe. And going into that match, they were fighting like they were really trying to hold on to something or defend something or to try to achieve something. And I love those type of fights because it allows you to take a look inside of what a fighter has. And on this night, both men were able to deliver something, and I really liked what I saw from them. And my man, Ortiz, his nose was leaking like a faucet. I don't know if something was broken there or he's one of those guys that bleeds when you hit him in the nose. But it should have made him move his head a little bit more. But no, he looked to engage. And then the fight ended up being a draw. A majority draw. And the interesting aspect about that, because Ordonez got 2 knockdowns, Reggie. And it looked like, you know, it was a shoe-in victory for him. But I liked the way that Ortiz battled back. He was trying, Reggie. He was putting his efforts in there. And he was trying to knock Ordonez's head off. And he caught him a couple of times in the fight that made Ordonez realize that, hey, I can't play with this guy. I got to keep my defense. You know, I got to watch him because he's trying to get me. What was your thoughts on this fight? And like I said, I thought it was the fight of the night.
Oh yeah, it definitely was a fight of the night. That was a spectacular fight. And I can tell something big was going to happen when they first, like the first few, maybe 30 seconds, they looked like they were going at it. And it's especially Ortiz. Ortiz, I can see, had the quicker hands. Rondo looked to be the more technical between the two. Very solid jab, good movement from him. Just good style from both of these fighters. This is going to be, I was like, this is going to be a crucial styles matchup. And neither one of these fighters can go to sleep in this fight. They can't have any lapse in this fight. But that dude, Ortiz, is a vicious fighter. He's a fighter with a ton of heart, because even when in the moments where he's busted up, nose cracked, leaking, it never deterred him. It was just like, get back. You remind one of them cats that, that I've seen growing up all through our life, who just have this ill mean streak to where when they feel you didn't land a punch on them, it's just something that ignites them, and they let off on you like a dog and stuff. And that's kind of what he had. And he dug in here to try to go in there and knock this guy out. He was going there trying to knock his head off. Good hands, very good combination, the way he mixes up well with that. Ordondo's very solid jab. I thought he moved well, landed his punches well. The rounds went back and forth, but once he cracked that dude, it was a game changer. The only thing I don't like with Ordondo's, he ain't got that switch to just go in there like when you see with Bud Crawford. Bud Crawford had Ortiz in that moment to where when he hurt him with that he kind of was slipping over to the left, allowing the aggression of Ortiz to come forward at him and just crack him with that uppercut, and it sent him through his head went through the ropes, and he was kind of out on his feet then. And Ordonado didn't press the button on him. He didn't press the button after the count because the referee did count as a knockdown, being the ropes held him, but he never pressed it. He took it slow, and I seen his brother outside the ring trying to motivate him to go forward, and he took his time and patience rather than pressing the gas while this guy was trying to recover. He could have walked in there intelligently, covered himself in there to try to just go in and finish off the work, but he's just too patient of a fighter, and that guy Ortiz showed he had the great ability to recover very fast. But they went to war. They went back and forth, and they got to rematch that one. That's worthy of a rematch. The only thing I didn't like out of being that one of the judges did side with one of the fighters, I thought the referee sided with the wrong fighter. I didn't see Ortiz being up by 2 rounds, especially getting knocked down. Maybe the referee didn't know who was who. It's the only thing I can come up with. But I would like to see them fight again. They're a great matchup. And that brother, matter of fact, that brother started the Ordano cat, who I thought was winning. He started to have some kind of that look on his face, like he had a look of whether or not he wanted to stay in here because he couldn't get this guy up off of him. This guy kept pressing forward. The more he beat on the guy, the more Ortiz turned in and came in with stronger and more aggressive attack on him. But that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and, again, it's those type of fights where you see what your guy has. Now, they can go back to the gym and work on some things. For Ordano, I think what he may want to do is work on, his punch output, and punch placement. He's got grit. He's definitely got grit. But he don't want to languish on the inside with guys because he looks like he has moderate power. He doesn't have like get you out of there type power. He might wear you down over some rounds. As far as Ortiz needs to box a little more because the fight was there for him to box. And I think, Reggie, at that point where you said that when he went through those ropes a little bit and Ordano could have took advantage of that, I think he was very leery of the guy because the guy was so strong and everything. And he didn't want to run into something foolishly and get caught. That's what I think he was doing, which was a smart move by he. Great fight. I would love to see them face each other again down the line. I don't think it should be a rematch that happens like right away. But if one of them were to get a regional title or even a world title or something like that, and they both are having success in their careers as they move along, definitely a rematch should be in order. But I don't know that I would want them in there with records of only 15 fights, maybe after they've had 20 fights, at some point, and have been maintained. If that's the only, decision that went that way and they continue on that winning path, yeah, maybe after 20 fights, they could, face each other again. But, man, what a great fight between them. Now, the other brother, Adorno, what did you think of his fight, Reggie?
Yeah, I didn't catch those because I ended up being in the store. I think the Ordano fight was the first fight that I caught.
Yeah. Well, I will say this, and I know, shout out to Kano Local Sports again. He was down there because he had a friend of his that was fighting on the card, and his friend won. He went down there to support him and be there in person for him. So I'm glad that the night worked out well for them. Orlando Gonzalez was the guy who fought on the undercard that was a friend of Conor Locos, so he was there to support him, and they had a good night. Yeah, this was a night where you could actually say that ESPN put on one of their better cards. You can really say that. I mean, there was some good fights. An undercard fight was the fight of the night, and you can't help but respect what they brought on this evening, especially since there was, no boxing that we wanted to see, opposite it. So it's like I really liked what we got out of this evening's card, and that's one for ESPN that they did. Now let's talk a little bit, Reggie, before we get out of here. Let's talk a little bit about the ESPN team. Andre Ward, Tim Bradley, these guys, and how they just suck up to the house fighters on the network, man. It's like they really act like they overdo it. It's really overkill. I don't know why these men feel they got to do that. I heard you speaking about Ward's scorecards, how he scores fights and everything. And Bradley is just, a minstrel show. Seriously. What would you like to see happen from the broadcast team of ESPN as far as how they're currently projecting the fights to the audience, as opposed to what you're seeing on your end and whatnot? What would you like to see happen there?
I don't really complain about. I don't listen to the commentators. I don't listen to them at all. The most I see Dre's scorecard when it flashed up on a couple of fights and was like, where the heck he gets that? And it seems to kind of always sway towards top rank fighters. So I don't know what he assesses with the way he scores fights. But then again, he is a top rated dude. I just don't agree with him on that end. But listening to him, I don't never listen to these dudes at all. Because that's why I like doing my own commentary. I like throwing my own stuff into it, because if I'm not calling commentate on fight, I turn the volume off. Even when I watch the Orodondo fight, I watched it with my music playing in the background. The volume was off. So I never hear them dudes. Even when I watch Fox Cars, I don't even listen to my favorite fighter of all time, Lennox Lewis. I don't listen to none of them. Larry Merchant and Jim Lampley, they made me like that to where I can't stand to listen to them. Monday Night Football commentators, they made me that same way. NBA commentators, they made me that way when Steve Nash played. So I tend to watch sports with no volume on it.
Yeah, and it's a shame you have to do that, because when you tune in to a broadcast, it's like you want some kind of even-handed commentary. I remember when Marvin Hagler did a TVKO guest analyst spot with Joe Goosen when James Toney fought Mike McCallum. And it was supposed to be a unification middleweight, fight where they ended up only fighting for Toney's IBF title. Marvin Hagler sat there, man, and he gave an honest assessment of both fighters. You can go back and watch the fight. It's like, for a guy who was a former world champion and who left the sport like he did and was on top for so long, it was refreshing to just see a professional fighter talk about the fighters like how he saw them professionally and not be so angled. And Goosen was right there with Marvin on that broadcast, and they had a great call. Somewhere along the line, some of these broadcasters, they just bought into the fact that because somebody is signed up with the station or the network, that they feel like they have to do that. I remember when Alex Walu and Dan Dierdorf, who was a football man, used to call the fights on, I think it's ABC. and they used to give great commentary on the fights. Al Bernstein, before he got goofy with Showtime many years ago when he was on ESPN, he used to do very good commentary. Al Michaels, there were guys who would just give you the action. And somewhere along the line, they start thinking like, oh, we got to give it to the network, fighter or the guy on our channel or whatever. And it's like, you don't have to do that. Boxing will sell itself. You ring that bell and these guys get going. People can clearly see who winning. You know what I mean? It's like, really? But, I just thought, I put it out there to have a small conversation about it, because it really puts the sport a level below, It's like you mentioned earlier this evening, you had a fighter in the UFC, right, that broke his leg. Can you imagine them talking about that? Like, if he didn't break his leg or whatever, they're talking about like he wasn't doing well if he was, or if he was doing well that he wasn't, or whatever. And it's like, and you're obviously looking at what you're seeing, right? I mean, we have to get better, man. There's some things that we could fix in boxing that would make the sport so much more enjoyable, but I guess for now, the fact that we got you brothers like yourself, KQ, calling these fights and stuff like that, and we can listen to you guys, because you guys are very good at what you're doing, and without the controversial, just giving one for the homie, so to speak. I don't know, but yeah, you got something else to say on that?
Yeah, my other thought, like when it comes to these commentators, is they have to start being genuine with what's being seen. The one thing I do respect and like about the UFC, and the other thing that keeps the UFC as an organization big, isn't so much just with the fighters. It's about those commentators. That Joe Rogan cat, now they done brought a former fighter and Daniel Cormier. They detail you the fights. And when you're watching things, if you watch UFC fighting, when they're doing they're like leaps and bounds ahead of every single fight commentator in combat sports, period. I don't care. You can't find nobody in boxing that can deliver what they deliver commentary wise. Even with everyone who sits on the panel with them, they deliver an aspect. You don't find goofiness going in here. At least you're going to be goofy and cornballs, make it entertaining. But these dudes deliver to where there's aspects of, they do almost like play breakdowns, how you see an NFL play being broke down. They take you to the subtle progressions of what a fighter did, foot movement, how the punch was placed here. When you see certain fighters in certain positions, they tell the viewers of how this fighter who was in the bad spot, what he needs to do to defend it, to avoid getting choked out, what the fighter who was applying the pressure needs to do to kind of finalize the choke and get it put in there to either put the guy to sleep or force a submission. So you begin to learn a lot of stuff. That's why you start seeing a lot of people going into fights out there on the streets and begin applying this mixed martial arts stuff, because they sit there, watch a fight, they hear what Joe Rogan is explaining, almost like on some teaching it out of a dojo, and they just lay out the dang the performances. They lay the performances out thorough without adding their own opinion to it. What you're seeing is what you're getting. When you're seeing that, they don't crap on the brand like you were seeing Teddy Atlas constantly doing when he was a commentator. They don't do that. They respect these fighters, they respect what's going on, and they appreciate what these guys are in there doing, unlike boxing. And the other side of it is that these fighters go in here with honor of themselves. They go in here to be victorious, win, lose, or draw, and even in defeat, they respect one another. But they come out here to try to give it their all, even if they're totally outmatched and outgunned. They come out here to give it their all and to entertain and please the fans. And not to say the UFC is better, because the mixed martial arts ain't better than boxing at all. And the thing that makes some of these mixed martial arts fights exciting is when boxing is applied, they stand up their boxing, our kicks are being delivered from karate stance. But the ultimate separator is what's done by the commentating analyst, and that's being Joe Rogan. Now you got Daniel Cormier on there, and I can't think of the other guy. But they do a great job, and ultimately that drives people back to want to watch it. Even when you look at the Thriller thing, Snoop Dogg's commentating, his presence at the booth draws people in. You're watching performance and hearing him state certain things. Unlike boxing, they do all this kill off type stuff, and they have to change that. Start being thorough. These dudes are knowledgeable. Tim Bradley and the what's his name, Andre Ward, are knowledgeable of the sport. Let them do their thing. Stop making them just one-sided to where they got to kiss and big up top-ranked fighters. Let them speak. If a top-ranked fighter losing or being embarrassed, express that. Stop just building up these one-name fighters trying to create cash counting opportunities for promotion. But that's my thoughts on that.
Yes, sir. And let's not forget that, coming up next week, we have a few fights that are gonna be broadcast. I think we'll have some overlapping cards again, but we'll be able to cover fights such as the Lara versus Lamana fight. That's still on, right? I know they said there was a fight that was canceled. It wasn't this one, was it, Reggie?
No, it was that dude with a vagina named Ryan Garcia that got canceled.
Okay.
But I haven't heard about it.
No, but I thought that there was not Ryan Garcia, but there was a fight that was canceled. I'm not certain which one it was. I don't know if it was the Jaime Munguia. One of these fights got canceled. But next week we can look forward to Araceli Lara back in the ring. He's going to be taking up Lamana, and this is going to be an interesting fight because Lara's getting older now. He's getting older, so he's still a champion right now. He's got that WBA title, and we'll see what happens. Then also we have the heavyweight showdown between Chisora and Parker, which Parker has dropped down that his name is actually second on this card and not first, Reggie, which is interesting within itself that Chisora is the headliner. So it just goes to show, man, how some people have fallen. That Joseph Parker dude, man, a guy that I just don't care for because I feel like he, took a sucker way out when he didn't go ahead and defend against Deontay, and he chose to give his title to Anthony Joshua. So, yeah. And then also we have the big fight between Andy Ruiz Jr. and Chris Arreola, which is going to be a pay-per-view of all things. And on that undercard, you've got, some fights that could be entertaining. I mean, that Figueroa and Ramos fight, Fondora and Cota, and then Ramos and Molina. Could be some interesting fights on that, but I don't know that I'll be paying for that pay-per-view, Reggie. I might be looking at another option on that. Do you know what you might be doing? I mean, you don't have to voice it on air, but do you have any intent of tuning in for this one?
It depends on what other fights are out that day. But I'm such a junkie for the sport. But I got to see what the undercard adds on it too. But I'm a junkie for this sport.
Well, this is the thing. This is the thing. On that poster there, it's showing you who's on the undercard. Are you seeing the poster? I got it up on the screen.
Back to YouTube. Yeah, Fondora. Oh, he's fighting Cota. It depends on who else is fighting that day. It just depends, man. Like I say, my weekend, how people rave about Sunday football. That's how I am about boxing. I don't know. I may end up paying for this one. I don't know. It depends, and then it depends on that price. I ain't paying those $70 for it. If it's around 40 or something, I may pay for it. So that's another factor on it.
Yeah. And again, the worst part about it is that's not a pay-per-view fight. It should definitely be, a Fox Fox FS1 or Fox Fight or whatever. And I think, as I said about the Lara fight, that's on Fox, you know, and that's 7 p.m. Eastern time, which is 6 p.m. my time. Very interesting. So I guess they're gonna keep the heavyweight fight on for later on. It doesn't give a time that they'll be on, and it's a PBC broadcast. So I don't know how they're gonna do that. And of course, the Joseph Parker fight. That fight is on Sky Sports 1. So that fight could be at any time, because Sky Sports, they broadcast that from a different time all the way. You know what I mean? So it remains to be seen what's going to happen with that. But go ahead and give us your final thoughts, Reg, as, for tonight's show. We're going to get on out of here. We're not going to hold everybody all night. Let us know what your thoughts are about today's fights, and don't forget to drop your link in the chat so people can subscribe to you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is a good top-ranked card. Real good card from where I caught it at. Very good fights. Also, I like that fight with Josue Vargas. Like how I saw him fight. I was worried about him getting hit with a right hand, being he was laying over on that left side, which kind of was aligning him with a right hand for that guy. He made the adjustment to kind of move his head away from that. I thought that was a pretty good fight, even though the opponent didn't give. The opponent kind of lost his heart. That opponent started to accept defeat, didn't want to compete against Josue at the moment. Josue's confidence is up ever since sparring Floyd, giving in good work, and he's putting on some good performances, got good skills. Once again, another good post-fight. Thank you guys for coming out. You guys can catch me on Boxing Conversation with Reggie Owens. I'm probably do a post-fight on that UFC event. Man, I got to rave about what the champion Usman did. The reason why I rave about that, because you got 3 African descent champions over on the UFC, which is dominating. One reason why I don't like Dana White is because I view Dana White as being kind of one of these kind of low-key hush-hush type of racist who tends to pander more towards marketing of certain look white fighters, while overlooking the black fighters and even the Brazilians in which he had. But right now, the most dominant fighters that are over in the UFC are black fighters, and 3 of them being out of the continent of Africa, who's dominating in the sport. And I think being that there's low presence of blacks who show support with MMA, but our fighters are dominating over there now because Dana White created that as a place mainly for white Americans to have a place to compete. They couldn't compete in boxing. Collegiate wrestling ends in college, so many of the collegiate wrestlers starting to pick up on the studying of other arts in order to compete in MMA, and it created a playground for them to look good, and Dana White that played them as the baddest people on the planet, and it worked for a while. But now you're starting to get to where we're mixing into the sport and dominating the sport, and now you have the Africans that are over here taking over the sport, and I like what I see with them, and I got to support that. But that's my thoughts, and I'll be doing a post-fight on that, and as well talking a little bit on the boxing too. But that's all I got, folks.
Yes, sir. And for those of you that want to go over there and check out Reggie, please, if you do anything, just go over there and subscribe to his new channel, because he's got another backup channel going. And to continue the UFC fight and conversation that some of you guys are having in the chat here, take it on over there to Reggie, because he's going to cover the stuff and give you a chance to speak on it more and engage with you guys. Stormy is a little tired this evening. I did that earlier show this afternoon, and I'm running on fumes right about now. So,
hey, great show, by the way. Great show, by the way.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you. A couple of positive comments have come in on that, saying it was a great stream. But yeah, I just wanted to put something out there this afternoon, and it did turn out to be a very good stream. We had brother Bruce Goes out there. We brought him on the panel. I had been talking about getting him on for a while, and we finally got him on, and we hope to have him back again soon for something. But yeah, it was a great show, and I appreciate everybody that came out to support that show. Got a lot of views on it, and the views are still rising. So that was a great show. And so, yeah, I want everybody to take this same energy on over there to Reggie's channel as we begin to sign off for the show. This has been a post-fight show with STORMYBMAN and Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens for the NAVARETTE versus DIAZ card for this Saturday, April 24th. From Kissimmee, Florida, man. It's like, and my man Kinda Local Sports was there live. I sent my boy Derek Harmon a text during that the Ortiz fight, and I said, man, this is the best fight I've seen in a long time between young prospects. And he texts me back. Derek don't always text me back, especially when he's working at these events. And he texts me back. He's like, yes, it is. He's like sitting there ringside. I could see him on camera when showing the fighters from the ring, because it's like he was sitting right there. I could see him in the audience. But yeah, it was a great night of boxing. Glad that we were able to cover it. I'm really enjoying doing these with you, Reggie, and we can't wait for next weekend, because we're going to have a whole lot more boxing to talk about with the 3 cards that are on next weekend. So This is the post-fight show. We're going to get on out of here. Everybody have a great night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Until the next one, we'll see you. Peace.
Peace.